Hello, everyone. So today, I think I'm going to take this time to fill you in on the relationship of intimacy to growing your business. And I'm Judith Manriquez, and I generally work as an intuitive business consultant or mentor and tend to be a visionary intuitive, which means for me that I can see the future in a very large scale way. So I can see the movement of energy and the movement of possibilities. I have been doing my work for a good long time, over 20 years, and have been focused on intuitives probably for the last decade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up some slides really quick to help walk us through some basic elements for conversation, and then I'll wrap it up with some conversations around intimacy and how it affects our ability to grow our business as intuitives and how to grow our business with ease. And this tends to be a hang up that I'm seeing with my mentorship women right now. Not so much a hang up, but an awareness that we're pushing ourselves too hard. So let me get our slides up. So we're going to start with, my intention is to answer your questions about how to grow your business in ease while honoring your own energy and soul alignment. So I really just want to address this. As intuitives or as highly conscious, self-aware women, we tend to be more aware of the way our energy flows and how we feel about things. So it could be feelings in like sensations in your body. It could be emotional feelings, but we tend to be much more sensitive to choices that we make for ourselves. And this is especially true in our business. And it's really important to be aligned to the choices we make. So I thought it'd be helpful to define what I mean, because you'll hear me say this very often, that my desire for you is to grow your business in ease. So what does it mean when I say grow your business in ease, and especially in alignment with you, the greater you? For me, that means that when you do business, it comes from your intuition, your inner guidance, or what I like to use, your human design authority, not your mental choices, which is exactly opposite of what most people do with business. And I think this is true for intuitives. We're always feeling for the way, like sensing for the way, listening for the way, not necessarily trying to make decisions from our mind or from the way it's been done. And the disconnect between what you're feeling you need to do versus what you've been taught or what you see being taught to be done, there's a disconnect, and sometimes that creates a little tension for us. And I have found that when we follow our intuition, it's really far more beneficial to creating what you want. So another thing that's really important is that you are attuned to your energy and make choices that honor your joy and well-being rather than follow best practices. Again, this is what I mean about growing in ease. When you grow in ease, you're actually trusting your innate wisdom, even when the external circumstances are not yet showing you the reality you desire. And this one is probably a really big crux point that trips us up. When you're working from your intuition, you're actually working with energy. And that's why we're listening for choices or feeling for choices or trusting our intuition to give us a sense of the flow of energy. When you're trusting your energy flow, we can't allow the external circumstances to derail us from the flow. And oftentimes we do derail ourselves. We judge ourselves. We say something's not working. We get discouraged. We think we're doing the wrong thing. And in every instance, everything that we're doing in that way is actually cutting off the flow of the path that we're on. And this is a really high level awareness. It takes a lot of practice to be able to do. I do not do this well yet, but I do know that this particular point is extremely important now that we have raised the vibration on the planet to the place that we have. So the higher vibration on this planet is allowing us to create, but we're going to have to hold the flow of energy, which means hold on to your intuitive knowing long enough to bring that full flow into creation. We can certainly talk about how that might apply to you, because it's much more helpful to have this as it relates to you. So if this is a question for you, please tag it and let's go over that together. Another thing that I mean about growing in ease is that when you invent your business processes, offers, and practices, they meet your personality and preferences, regardless of what anybody else says or what anybody else says needs to be the way to make it work. So really important element. And I think many people get that. And sometimes we just don't allow ourselves to do it our own way. And then the last point for growing in ease is that you know that your growth will be non-linear, exponential, and across all areas of your life. So one of the things that is really important to me when I work with people is you may come in with a desire to grow your business in ease, but we're looking at the whole part of you. Like all of you comes into the work that you do. And so when you grow in one area, you're affecting all areas. So if you grow in your relationship sector, you're going to affect the growth in your business. And a lot of times we actually use this to find the easiest way to grow your business is to go focus on the area that you're most comfortable growing in. It helps. Actually, it's a really, really effective way. So moving on to the next. So a lot of times we get stuck in different parts of business. And so what parts of business do you have questions about? I want to invite you to go ahead and let me know what those are. So you can make a note of this. These are some traditional elements of business. My purpose of the business, my purpose, what I want, offers, how you structure your offers, how you structure the whole business, visibility and outreach. Meaning how am I seen? How do I reach out? A lot of times this comes into social media. Do I do video? Do I do writing? How do I reach out to people? Do I do it in person? A lot of that is this element. Sales and invitation. Sales is literally it could be a single sentence that says, I have this thing for sale, come join me. Or it can be a whole process. It can be a script. There are a lot of things that come into sales and inviting people to actively work with you. Systems and tech often comes down to how do I do this and which systems do I use? How do I set this up? How do I make this happen? I can answer all those questions too. Connection and relationships. I always add this in. I don't know which component of business I would say. I think maybe people use the know, like, and trust factor for connection and relationships. I don't, because connection and relationships is a two-way thing. And how are you nurturing the relationships with the people that you're bringing into the circle of your work? Staff and support is another big question. And then leadership, being the leader of your business is another core element that we might have questions about in our business. So think about these as you consider either messaging me or working with me, because I can answer questions around all of this. Then there's another element to business. What personal elements do you need support with, or do you have questions around? Often, any one of these, boundaries, worth, trust, belief in self, receiving, giving, change, power, and connection will come up whenever you're growing your business. And sometimes this part of business is really the thing that makes it hard. And the functional technical parts that we just saw on the previous slide are less of the issue. And unless you have these parts worked out within you, the other stuff is still going to feel stuck. So a lot of times in the work that I do, we're actually working at this level to help facilitate all of this actually happening with ease. Okay, so just wanted you to know, pay attention to that part. So I always find it really helpful to simplify what is business so that you can know how to create business in ease. And business is essentially, simplistically, a container, a legal container for holding and offering something to others. That's what a business is. And then the work that the business does is a relationship with others. The relationship may have exchanges, which is where we talk about money. But when you have any kind of relationship, there's a sharing of energy from one person to another person and back and forth. And that's what businesses do. So one of the big questions you want to really answer for yourself in business is, what do you offer? And this is where we're building on the conversation to explaining or exploring intimacy in business. So when you think about what you're offering to the world, you really want to think about yourself first, because you need to know what you want, but also you need to know what you want to offer. And what you want to offer will depend on what you feel comfortable with. And this is going to play out in multiple circles in your business. And I'll explain it to you as we go along. So take note of, what do you offer? It may be one-on-one services. It may be products. It doesn't matter, because in every element, you're going to have to be addressing the intimacy level of the thing that you offer. So for fun, let's say we have that business for us is a game of business. It has 3 core elements. All business has 3 core elements. We could get into expanding it into more complexity, but simplistically, this is what it comes down to. You have part 1, the container. The container of your business holds your offers. Whatever it may be, one offers, maybe multiple, but it's the way you engage with others. It's the thing you have to offer in relationship with someone else. 2 is your invitation. The invitation for people to join you in the container of your work. That's a second element of business. There will be invitations. There can be formalized invitations like freebies. There can be all kinds of other ways where you invite people in. Somebody may never have a freebie. It may just be a one-on-one session to begin with. It could be a free exploratory session. It could be a free talk at a pop-up someplace in physical form. There are a lot of ways that we offer invitations to build a connection to the container. And then the third thing is your connection to all of this, and especially the people who've taken you up on your invitation. This is the third element of business, your connection to the people who've come in to the circle. How do you want to connect with them, and how do you want to maintain a relationship? So as you think about connection implies a level of intimacy, and I don't think we ever think about that. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Now, what's the object of the game, this business game? It is to stay in alignment with your joy and create expansive possibilities with ease. That's the whole point of business. You may think it's to make money, but money comes as a byproduct of this. If you can stay in alignment with your joy and create expansive possibilities with ease, then you will have all of the rest of the outcomes that you want from your business. In most cases, it's money. Sometimes it's impact, sometimes it's visibility, sometimes it's changing the world. There are a lot of different reasons that we do business. There's a byproduct of what we're doing, but ultimately, we're here walking the planet to create with ease and joy. Here's what our business is here to help us do. So it's the object of the game, your business. Now, to play this game, you need to do 3 things. You need to know how to make aligned decisions. And again, you can find your own way. And if you've been on this journey, you may have learned how to listen for your intuition to guide you. I like to use the shortcut of using human design. And when you know your human design, your strategy, and your authority, you learn very quickly that decisions are not made from your mind, and everybody has their own unique way of creating. So keep that in mind. Human design is a good way to shortcut knowing how to make aligned decisions with your own divine self. To play this game, you need to know your own boundaries. Boundaries mean, what am I willing to do and not willing to do? What do I feel comfortable doing? What is in alignment with my values? I think the most obvious way to think about this, and it's a really simple one for business, but dancing on Instagram to do reel. It could also be doing lives, deciding you need to do live video. A lot of social work for people, like starting up on socials, posting every day. We all have certain boundaries, and we often compromise those boundaries because we think we need to be successful. You don't. I can give you examples of so many different people doing business, so many different ways, who've been successful, not following any of those traditional requirements for whatever tool is being suggested, like Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. Third thing you need to play the game is you need to trust yourself and the journey. So this is another core element for ourselves where we all take responsibility, but can you trust yourself with the choices you're making? And that means too, that sometimes you're trusting yourself even when you, quote unquote, make a mistake. It was a beneficial mistake. We'll use the word mistake. Things didn't go like you wanted, but it's part of the process of the creation of what you're making. So we allow ourselves the creative messes. Awesome. Now we move on to the concept of intimacy in business. And this is something that came up for me recently when I was working with my mentorship group. And the idea here was, how do I work through something that's feeling hard for me to do? I'm having a hard time doing this. I feel like I need to be doing this, and I'm having a hard time. I want to be committed to showing up, but I don't feel like showing up in this way. And really, let's talk about intimacy in relationship to that kind of situation, because this happens throughout all of business. I don't want to sell. It's a very common thing. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to show up on video. I don't want to write every week. I don't want to force myself to write all the time because it's too long or too much, or people don't want to hear from me. Like, there's all of these things that come into play. And actually, what's underneath all of that is lack of clarity around your own intimacy boundaries with your business. So businesses require intimacy. And intimacy is the state of being intimate, which is marked by the consensual sharing of deeply personal information. Sharing personal information. It has a cognitive, affective, and behavioral component. Intimates reveal themselves to one another, care deeply about one another, and are comfortable in proximity. That is a business relationship. We reveal ourselves to one another, often a little bit at a time, some people more so at a time. They care deeply about one another. Now, you may or may not care deeply, but let's take an example of something that has a minimal intimacy level, like a paid newsletter. A paid newsletter, you're caring deeply enough to pay and to read. So there is a level of connection, may not be super, super deep, but it's still a connection with one another that is deeper than not knowing each other or not caring about each other. There is a care involved if I'm paying you to deliver something to me that I enjoy reading. And then there's comfortable in proximity, meaning that you get closer and closer to one another over time, right? That happens in business relationships, and it especially happens for intuitives who are very sensitive to other people's energy. And it's especially true for those of us that do transformation and one-on-one work. We really do get engaged with the journey that another person is on because we're wanting to help them on their journey to express themselves as whatever they've come here to do as a soul. So here's the way I see it. After we've built all this up, we have a container. Your container is your business. And in this container, you have your offers. You may have one offer. You may have, and this is an example I put up in my blog, you may just have that one container being a paid newsletter or a free newsletter, like the Marginalian, which was Brain Pickings. One newsletter, highly researched, very thoughtful, a lot of energy goes into this. That's the container of the business. That's the whole container. There aren't any other levels. There is an invitation to subscribe. There's the second component to this business, an invitation. Your clear way in. Subscribe, receive. That's the exchange. The connection, how is the connection maintained? The connection is maintained inherent in that one offer. There isn't a back and forth. There's no one-on-ones. There are no special messages. There are no chats. There's nothing else. There will be the personal message in the email and the invitation to join. Once you're in, that's the relationship. That's the level of intimacy offered. Now, if we look at my container has multiple levels. So I have an invitation, which is through free things like this particular recording or through a live one-on-one, a live call, a group call. It can also be through a freebie. So an invitation comes in through a freebie and then you join. So your invitation can be to receive the freebie, you get the freebie, and now you're a part of the outer layer. I have one-on-one mentoring, I have group mentoring, and then I will have a larger long-term group mastery program. So there's different degrees of intimacy. I'm very conscientious about the intimacy. I tend to be very introverted. And so I allow people in over time because the connection I make with them is so deep as we get closer and closer in to the center of my container. So this is the invitation. I'm clear that I have a very, very deep level of intimacy at the center of my container, but not out here. And the connection I maintain with people will be through a variety of different ways that I am still exploring. How do I bring people closer and closer into my container? And where do I segment some of the sharing? I don't feel comfortable sharing the kind of mastery level work that I do at my center core with people who are just new to my list. I don't feel comfortable. I also do not feel comfortable sharing it openly and widely on social media, because to me, that means you're not really in my container. You have not joined. I don't have an agreement of intimacy with you. Do you see how this is a conversation we actually have without ever having it? We think about structuring our business. We're going to have this product, this product, this product, and then I'm going to send them these newsletters. It's a very functional, mental approach to business, but we're not actually exploring what am I okay with in terms of sharing about my work, about myself, about my life. Some people are really open with sharing. Well, I'll share everything about their life, and they're okay sharing it on the outer levels with people who've never even joined, hoping that if I share that openly, you will come into my circle. And that is possible. It can happen, and it often does. But for those of us who have different degrees and levels of intimacy, you can also grow business. And so one of the things that I want to stress for you here is that when you're feeling like something is hard to do, go back to, am I feeling like this thing that is hard for me to do? Am I in some way attempting to cross my own intimacy boundaries? Am I trying to do something that is not in alignment with who I am at the stages and levels of intimacy that I choose to engage with the world? I'll stop right there and pause. It's important to know where your intimacy boundaries are. That does not mean that you won't ever make change. So this is where we can get at a crossways in our minds. We're like, well, if I'm not pushing myself to grow, then would I never try new things? No, actually, you will try new things when you feel safe within your intimacy boundary. You will try new things and get better at something. Sometimes we do need to change, but that does not have to do with your business and how you want to grow it. When you start growing your business, you're going to start it within the container of comfort that works for you. Pushing outside that container before you're ready is like asking a toddler to start running before they have finished crawling. We have to develop ourselves to the place where we need to be to do more outside of where we are right now. Sometimes we think it's easier than it actually is. But when you listen to your energy and listen to your intuition, you will know this is too big of a push for me. What is an option instead? How can I develop this muscle in a safer intimacy circle so that I can then take it out in further ways? Does that make sense to everybody? I hope this has been helpful to you. This is really enlightening for me and helps me understand and helps me explain why some things feel really hard. I'm always on the journey of why does this thing seem so hard for me or hard for others to do? Here's a good example. I have had many people work with me who will often say, yes, I know that I need to, my soul has shown me that I'm going to show up and I'm going to do video and I'm going to share about this, but they're really uncomfortable on video. They do not like showing up live that way. They are remarkably gifted in their one-on-one work, but translating that to video, like on YouTube, is often really challenging. Why is that? Because they haven't grown their intimacy out in circles. Often the work they do requires a safety container, a much tighter container of understanding and knowing that cannot be found in the marketplace of YouTube. So then you have to think about, how do I want to create a flow in my business to support the intimacy, to bring people in closer to me and offer what I have to offer in the ways that feel comfortable at the different areas of the circle, right? So if it's way out there, how do I share with you? But as you come in, how do I share with you? And how do I create a container for you here that is more intimate? Make sense? We often have done this only in business with one newsletter. Here's the one newsletter. I'll send it to everybody. Maybe that's helpful. Maybe it's not. I find many cases that people are really discouraged because you don't get the same kind of response from people who are way outside on the circle as you do from the inside of the circle. And it doesn't necessarily move someone on the outside closer in, because that is a very deliberate process of bringing someone in closer to you and your levels of deeper intimacy. They may not ever be interested in that level. So if you're trying to bring them in, it's not going to happen. It's a choice. They make a choice, just like you make a choice in intimacy. All right. I hope all of that has been helpful, opened up some new thoughts for you. If you would like to explore this with me, please join me on my Substack. It's called youarethedream.substack.com. I am very excited to receive feedback there. And the other place where I welcome feedback, exchange, conversations is on Instagram if you're not ready to join my list. All right. Take care, and thank you for joining me.